Alex Eala. Like,
oh my gosh.
She's already popular as it is, and now she's having a Wimbledon moment. And there is something I think about Wimbledon and the US Open to some extent, but players doing well at Wimbledon, it just takes you to another level. And
rocket ship.
Just rocket ship. And she won her match today against Iga Swiatek, a match that I thought for sure she had a chance to win. And I wanted to ask you, because I think for some people anyway, it seems...
Who would have guessed that a 21-year-old from the Philippines could accidentally become the biggest attraction at Wimbledon? The moment Alex Eala's unforgettable run came to an end, it felt as though the tournament lost its spark overnight. The buzz faded, fans stopped talking, ticket prices reportedly dropped, and the women's final never generated the excitement many expected. Suddenly, everyone was asking the same question. Did Wimbledon just discover that its biggest star had already walked out of the tournament before championship weekend even began at the Glorious Sports Awards? Alex Eala looked so music. Good. So good. Her uncle made that dress for her. Oh wow. Oh, really? Yeah. Her uncle made that dress for her in 2 days. They literally designed it in year. She was my favorite. She looked like the princess of the Philippines. Yeah, that's what you said. I 100% agree. It is so good. It is amazing how quickly the atmosphere around a major sporting event can change. One extraordinary performance can transform an entire tournament into the hottest ticket in town, while one unexpected defeat can quietly drain away the excitement almost overnight. I really didn't think I'd be making this many videos about women's tennis at Wimbledon. But once I researched Alex Eala's story, I couldn't resist this one. If you don't already know the name of Alex Eala, get ready, because she is the first Filipino tennis player to make it through to the third round of a Grand Slam singles tournament at Wimbledon. But that isn't the best thing about her story. In August last year, Eala wore a t-shirt designed by Manila-based designer Georgina Camel, which featured the national flower of the Philippines, the Segatita. Wimbledon has always been bigger than any single player. At least that is what tennis has proudly claimed for generations. Yet, the final week of the 2026 championships produced a fascinating contradiction. When Kevin spoke about Alex Eala, and honestly, every time that you guys speak about Eala in an off-court cuts or a full episode of those videos, and those episodes seem to reach a lot more people, there's obviously a lot of hype behind Eala. And Greg, do you have any idea of why this is? Well, easily. The Philippines. They haven't had a superstar in tennis. I can't remember a Philippine tennis player that had the hype in a junior world number one, trains with Rafael Nadal, has beaten Rakina Spitzalina, won the tournament. The biggest conversation was no longer about who eventually lifted the trophy. Instead, it revolved around the player who was no longer in the draw. For nearly a week, Alex Eala became the center of the tennis universe. Just watched Alex, music, Eala beat the reigning Wimbledon champion, EGA. What was that like to watch? It's one of those special moments you get to share with an athlete who's just beginning on her journey, and it was really kind of inspiring actually. Who is your all-time tennis hero? Music. You know, today I'm going to say Tim Henman. I love how he's humble, insanely accomplished. Who do you have on to win Wimbledon this year? Oh God, that's such a big question. Probably Djokovic. The service is given to tennis. I want Coke to get her third slam, especially here. Every highlight package seemed to include her name. Every sports page in the Philippines celebrated another milestone. Even fans who normally ignored women's tennis suddenly found themselves staying awake through impossible time zones just to watch a young Filipina chasing history on the sport's most famous court. Then everything changed. Her 3-set defeat to Jasmine Paolini ended one of the most captivating stories Wimbledon had produced in years. The loss itself was respectable. There was no controversy, no heated argument with an umpire, no injury drama that overshadowed the tennis. Paolini simply played the better match over 3 competitive sets. That should have been the end of the music story. Instead, it became the beginning of a much bigger conversation. Within hours of Eala's elimination, social media exploded with screenshots claiming that resale ticket prices around center court had fallen dramatically. Whether every viral screenshot reflected the exact market price almost became irrelevant because the internet had already latched on to the larger point. Fans believed something had disappeared from the tournament the moment Alex Eala packed her bags. The remarkable part was not simply the discussion about ticket prices. Sporting events, See fluctuations all the time depending on schedules and matchups. What surprised so many observers was how quickly the energy surrounding the women's tournament seemed to evaporate after it was gone. Just 48 hours earlier, Center Court had delivered one of its loudest ovations of the entire fortnight. Even Federer had to pull up to watch Eala. That's how phenomenal she has been over this last week and a bit. But Ayala's run is done. She is out of Wimbledon. She showed fight. She showed grit. She showed determination. But today was just the beginning of something special. Big shout out to Jasmine Bellini, who's into another quarterfinal at Wimbledon. She beat Eala in 3 unbelievable sets of tennis with momentum going back and forth, and she just that unforgettable afternoon against defending Wimbledon champion Iga instantly became one of the defining moments of the championship. IA captured a tense opening set tiebreak before completely taking over the second set. Watching one of tennis's biggest stars lose on the sport's grandest stage would have been memorable, regardless of the opponent. But seeing it happen against a 21-year-old from Manila elevated the story into something much bigger than a simple upset. It felt like the arrival of a new global attraction. The highlight video spread across social media almost immediately. Wimbledon itself pushed clips from the match across its digital platforms. Engagement soared. Tennis fans shared reactions. Casual sports fans suddenly wanted to know who Alexa Music was. Filipino communities around the world treated every point like a national celebration. Suddenly, this was no longer just another fourth-round match. It had become the emotional heartbeat of the tournament. That is why a defeat against Paolini resonated far beyond the result itself. Wimbledon continued exactly as scheduled, but the storyline that had captured music, millions of viewers disappeared overnight. The timing only magnified the problem. Music. As the tournament moved toward championship weekend, another massive attraction had already exited the draw. Coco Gauff, one of the biggest names in women's tennis and one of the sport's strongest commercial stars, had also fallen short of reaching the final. Losing Gauff removed another enormous audience from the equation that Alexa is good on grass. I'm like, guys, last year we were talking about how she could possibly beat Barbara Krejcikova. Did everyone forget what happened last year? And it's so striking to see Music, how she and Eva Jovic, who I kind of always group them together because they are besties, are so confident on grass. And we are seeing right now, Music, this kind of top of the WTA tour that is really not confident on grass. We have this kind of generation of players who have been recently dominant. When both Gauff and Eala were absent from the closing stages, many casual fans quietly shifted their attention elsewhere. This should never be interpreted as disrespect toward the eventual finalists. Linda Noskova earned every bit of her championship. She battled through an incredibly difficult draw before defeating fellow Czech Karolina Muchova 62-57-63 to capture her first Wimbledon title. It was an outstanding achievement and a milestone she will remember forever. Unfortunately for Noskova, sports history is often cruel about timing. Sometimes an athlete produces the greatest performance of their career while the public remains captivated by a completely different story. That appears to be exactly what happened. Instead of celebrating Nova's breakthrough, social media timelines continued debating Alexa. Fans discuss her future ranking. They analyze her victory over Swiatek. They speculated about her chances at the US Open. They replayed highlight reels from earlier in the week. Even conversations about ticket demand kept circling back to the same player. Imagine winning one of the biggest tournaments in sports only to discover that one of the most discussed topics afterward is someone who lost several rounds earlier. That says less about Noskova and much more about the extraordinary attention I managed to generate. The numbers behind her tournament help explain why she chose to honor her heritage, but also send a message of strength with this Filipino phrase embroidered into the back of her visor. It said Kapag gumago hindi na hihinto, which translates to once it starts growing it won't stop. I love that. And the more I researched about AA, I found out that she is definitely a fashion girly who loves to wear a lot of color on the tennis court. But she's also very intentional about how she dresses, often honoring her Filipino heritage on the tennis court and the red carpet. By reaching the latter stages of Wimbledon, Eala secured one of the biggest price checks of her young career while moving toward a projected career-high ranking around world number 28. That alone represented history for Philippine tennis. No Filipina had climbed that high before. Yet, the ranking barely captured the full impact. Entire communities across Asia suddenly viewed Wimbledon differently because someone who looked like them spoke like them, and represented their country was competing deep into the tournament. That type of connection cannot be manufactured by marketing campaigns. It has to happen organically. Sports history offers plenty of examples. Emma Raducanu's unforgettable US Open triumph ignited enormous interest throughout Britain. Koko's breakthrough as a teenager attracted younger audiences who previously paid little attention to tennis. Leylah Fernandez inspired Canadian fans with a magical run in New York. Add Filipino communities across North America, Europe, the Middle East, and Australia, and suddenly every Eala match becomes an international event stretching far beyond traditional tennis markets. That helps explain why broadcasters, tournament organizers, and sponsors have paid such close attention to her rapid ascent. One compelling player can, music, dramatically change viewing habits. The irony is that Eala herself never acted like someone chasing celebrity. After losing to Paolini, she calmly admitted that her serve simply was not at the level required that day. But the run that Eala had over this last week was something special and something that she can truly be proud of and something that she's going to build upon. We've seen the birth of a superstar in this game, and I'm convinced of that. The way that she played, the determination she plays with, the amount of people that are behind her watching her play. She's box office, but all in all, it's a week that she can be proud of, and it's a week that she can build up on. 2026 has been a building year, and she is building so well. Rather than searching for excuses, she focused on improvements that still needed to happen. It was a response of an athlete thinking long-term instead of dwelling on one disappointing afternoon. That maturity has become another reason fans continue gravitating toward her. She understands that careers are measured over years rather than individual matches. Even tennis legends notice. Hall of Famer Martina Navratilova praised Eala's competitiveness throughout the tournament while pointing out technical areas that still require refinement, particularly on serve. They invest those conversations in athletes whose futures still appear incredibly bright. That distinction matters because if Eala can already defeat defending major champions while still possessing obvious technical room for growth, her ceiling may be significantly higher than many predicted only months ago. Meanwhile, commercial interest continues rising. Tournament directors preparing for the North American hardcourt swing, music, understand exactly what her presence means. Television executives understand it. 2. Sponsors certainly understand it. Every additional victory expands our audience. Every music, deep tournament run introduces millions of new fans. Supposedly, there was 11 million people in the Philippines that watched that match. Which are astronomical numbers. I've also read that she's got her own pink line of clothes coming out, and her rating for Nike was like a 5-star rating for liking her contract with these sorts of results. So, she is box office. She's polite. Music. She's a great tennis player, and wherever you go in the world, it doesn't matter if you're in Indian Wells, if you're Wimbledon, and you're Paris, it's almost like they're in love with her and they're just dedicated to her career and love watching. And unlike many overnight sensations, Eala seems remarkably comfortable handling the attention. Earlier during Wimbledon, she shared a message on social media about resilience, explaining that athletes do not need to win every match to inspire others. She wrote that pressure creates stronger people and that difficult moments often prepare individuals for even greater opportunities. Reading those words after her elimination gave them unexpected significance. It sounded less like motivational content and more like someone quietly preparing herself for the next chapter before the current one had even ended. That perspective may prove invaluable as expectations continue growing, but expectations have evolved dramatically. Fans are no longer hoping she simply wins a match or two. Many genuinely believe she can challenge the world's elite on the biggest stages. That is an entirely different level of pressure. Yet, it is also the type of pressure reserved for players capable of transforming a sport's popularity. Looking back, Wimbledon may ultimately remember 2026 less for the champion who lifted the Venus Rosewater dish and more for the young woman whose departure unexpectedly changed the tournament's entire atmosphere. Really like Alexandra to win it all. That would be such an underdog story and so nice to see young women achieving their dreams. Music. So, which match are you most excited about for today? Seeing my stepson play. Actually, that's amazing. What's his name? Ollie Page. We're going to be rooting for Ollie Page. Music. Who would be your dream doubles partner? But I'd say Alcaraz, Connor Swindells. We did a TV show together called A Rogue Heroes. Yeah, probably Connor Swindell. I'd say, what's your favorite thing about Wimbledon? The amount of people who can sit and not say anything for such a sustained period of time. Music. I haven't seen anything. When viewers lose interest after one player exits, it reveals something powerful about that player's connection with the audience. Whether discussions centered on declining buzz, softer ticket demand, or reduced attention surrounding the women's final, they all pointed toward the same conclusion. Alexa had become one of the tournament's biggest attractions. The women's final still crowned a deserving champion in Linda Noskova, whose brilliant victory over Carolina Muchova completed an outstanding championship run. Nothing should diminish that accomplishment. It reminded everyone that championships are decided by scoreboards, while sporting phenomena are decided by people. People decide which highlights they replay. People decide which matches they stay awake to watch. People decide which players inspire entire countries to dream. For one unforgettable week on the lawns of Wimbledon, Alexa accomplished something that statistics alone cannot fully explain. She convinced millions of casual fans that women's tennis had suddenly become must-see entertainment. And when her remarkable run finally ended, the silence that followed may have said more about her growing influence than any standing ovation ever could. Even Federer had to pull up to watch Eala. That's how phenomenal she has been over this last week and a bit. But Ayala's run is done. She is out of Wimbledon. She showed fight, she showed grit, she showed determination. But today was just the beginning of something special. Big shout out to Jasmine Bellini, who's into another quarterfinal at Wimbledon. She beat Eala in 3 unbelievable sets of tennis with momentum going back and forth, and she just edged it out. For the run, now the spotlight moves, music, to New York, where the US Open present another opportunity for tennis's fastest rising star to prove that Wimbledon was not a magical one-week exception, but simply the opening chapter of a career that could reshape the sport's future. If the excitement surrounding London is any indication, the next tournament may not just be competing for a Grand Slam champion. It may also be competing for the attention of millions of fans who have already decided that wherever Alex Eala plays next is where the Real story begins. There's also a lesson here for the WTA as a whole. For years, tennis has searched for the next generation of stars capable of attracting entirely new audiences instead of simply inheriting existing ones. That kind of connection cannot be measured solely by rankings or prize money because it creates something far more valuable: music, long-term fans. If she continues progressing at this pace, the discussion surrounding Alexa will soon move beyond surprising upsets and Cinderella stories. The focus will shift toward major titles, global endorsements, and whether she can become one of the defining faces of women's tennis. Judging by the reaction Wimbledon experienced after her exit, that future may arrive much sooner than anyone expected. Because the biggest stars are not simply remembered for the matches they win. They are remembered for how different the sport feels whenever they are no longer.